"Your brother needs us more," my mother said over roast chicken and mashed potatoes. And just like that, 34 years of trying to earn my place at my own family's table collapsed into one perfectly ordinary Tuesday night. The Bennett family dinners always looked warm from the outside. My mother Margaret loved candles in the fall, cloth napkins at Thanksgiving, and using words like togetherness as if saying them often enough could make them true. My father Ronald sat at the head of the oak table he'd refinished himself 20 years ago, proud of traditions nobody had asked to keep alive. My brother Dylan leaned back in his chair, relaxed in the careless way people become when life keeps cushioning their falls. And then there was me, Claire, the dependable daughter, the one who remembered birthdays, showed up early, brought wine, smiled through awkward silences, and somehow still managed to feel like a guest in the house where she grew up. I had lost my marketing job 13 days earlier. Not that anyone at the table had asked how I was doing. My severance package was running thin. My rent was due in 3 weeks. I'd spent that morning updating my resume at a coffee shop that charged $7 for a latte I couldn't really afford. But I showed up to family dinner anyway because old habits die hard, especially the habit of hoping. Dad cleared his throat and raised his glass. "I want to make a toast," he announced. Dylan smiled immediately, as if his body already knew good news was headed his way. My mother reached for his arm with that soft, protective expression she reserved only for him. "We've decided to help Dylan with the down payment," Dad said proudly. "He found a new business opportunity." I looked up from my plate. New business opportunity. That was family code. It could mean anything from a failed side hustle to another expensive mistake wearing a nicer shirt. Dylan nodded modestly, like a man accepting an award he absolutely expected to win. "It's really going to turn things around this time," he said. This time. The phrase landed heavily in my chest because there had been many times. The landscaping company that lasted 9 months. The restaurant investment that disappeared in 11. The cryptocurrency obsession no one mentioned anymore. Every collapse met with patience, encouragement, and another financial rescue package wrapped in parental optimism. I took a sip of water. "That's generous," I said carefully. My mother smiled at me, relieved I was behaving correctly. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "Your brother needs it more." Simple words. Calm tone. No cruelty in her voice. Somehow that made it worse. Because cruelty can be argued with. Cruelty admits intention. This was just certainty. A statement so deeply believed it didn't even require explanation. I looked around the table waiting for someone, anyone, to remember that I existed inside this conversation too. My father adjusted his fork. Dylan checked his phone. The candles flickered softly between us. Nobody noticed the silence stretching inside me. I thought about being 16 and missing my state debate finals because Dylan had gotten suspended and my parents needed to handle a crisis. I thought about graduating college with honors while they left early to attend one of Dylan's recreational softball games. I thought about Christmases where my gifts came with practical advice, while his came with forgiveness disguised as generosity. The memories arrived quietly, one after another, like overdue bills sliding under a locked door. And for the first time in my life, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel shocked. I felt tired. Deeply, completely tired. Not because my parents chose Dylan again. That part was familiar. No, what exhausted me was realizing I had spent decades treating temporary disappointment like an administrative error waiting to be corrected. As if one day someone would look up from the family script and say, "Claire, we got it wrong." But sitting at that table, staring at the people I loved most, I finally understood something painful and embarrassingly simple. I wasn't their daughter in the way Dylan was their son. I was their reliable solution, their emotional reserve account, the child who required less, so she received less. And somehow everyone had agreed to call that fairness. People like to think favoritism announces itself loudly. They imagine obvious things. Bigger birthday presents, open praise, a framed photograph placed a little too carefully on the mantle. But in my family, favoritism lived in smaller places. In timing, in expectations, in the quiet rearranging of priorities that always seemed reasonable until you added up 30 years of evidence. When Dylan and I were kids, my mother used to call me her easy child. She said it like a compliment. Claire never causes problems. Relatives smiled when they heard it. Teachers loved hearing it during parent conferences. Even I believed it for a while. Easy sounded good. Easy sounded loved. What nobody explained was that being the easy child often meant becoming invisible. When I was 12, Dylan forgot his science project the morning it was due. My mother rushed across town to deliver it to his middle school before first period. I remember because that same morning I had won a regional writing award. My certificate sat folded inside my backpack all day because nobody remembered to ask how the ceremony went. That evening, dinner became a 40-minute discussion about Dylan's stressful schedule and how hard adolescence could be for boys. My certificate stayed in my room under a stack of library books. At 16, I made varsity debate team. State finals landed on the same Saturday Dylan got suspended for skipping classes. My parents promised they would try their best to attend both. I remember standing outside the auditorium in navy heels that hurt my feet, checking the crowd before my final round started. I saw strangers holding flowers, proud parents carrying coffee cups and cameras. I saw empty seats where my family should have been. Later that night, my mother hugged me distractedly while reheating leftover lasagna. "We knew you would understand," she said. Understand. That word followed me through childhood like background music. Dylan needed understanding when he crashed his car. Dylan needed understanding when he changed majors twice in college after my parents had already paid tuition bills that would have made most people dizzy. Dylan needed understanding when he borrowed money from my father and forgot repayment existed. Me? I was expected to understand the understanding. By 28, I had developed a strange talent for shrinking my own needs before anyone else could dismiss them. I paid my bills early, handled my problems privately, learned how to cry quietly in apartment bathrooms before showing up smiling to office meetings and family birthdays. Independence became my survival strategy. My parents mistook it for proof that I required nothing. The irony would have been funny if it had not shaped my entire life. I remember one Christmas in particular. Dylan had started another business venture that involved imported coffee equipment and an alarming amount of optimism. Money was tight for him again. Money was always tight for him in creative new ways. That year, my parents bought him a $6,000 equipment package because they believed in supporting dreams. They gave me a scarf, a scented candle, and a hardcover planner with a note that said, "For our organized girl." I thanked them sincerely. That is the embarrassing part. I always thank them sincerely. Because when unfairness arrives one small piece at a time, you learn to package disappointment into gratitude. You tell yourself families are complicated. You tell yourself your brother is struggling. You tell yourself love looks different for different children. But driving home from dinner that Tuesday night, hands tied around the steering wheel, I could not hide behind those explanations anymore. The pattern was too complete now, too familiar, too polished from years of repetition. My parents did not choose Dylan once in a while. They built their lives around rescuing him. And somewhere along the way, they built mine around surviving without rescue. The strange thing about family traditions is that they can keep functioning long after the love inside them has changed shape. Every Sunday morning, my mother sent the same group text. "Dinner at 6. Bring an appetite." Little smiling emoji at the end. For years, I answered automatically. Sometimes with enthusiasm. Sometimes from obligation. Mostly from muscle memory. The Sunday after that dinner, I stared at the message for nearly 10 minutes before replying. My apartment was unusually quiet. My coffee had gone cold beside my laptop. Job listings filled my screen in neat rows of qualifications and rejection waiting to happen. I should have been editing cover letters. Instead, I was calculating emotional expenses. How much energy did one family dinner cost? How many days did it take me to recover from feeling tolerated in rooms where I was supposed to belong? I almost typed that I could not make it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then guilt arrived right on schedule. Guilt had excellent attendance in my family. By 6 o'clock, I was carrying a bakery pie through my parents' front door while my mother stirred gravy in the kitchen and my father argued with a football pre-game show from the living room. Dylan was already there. Of course he was. He looked tired in the theatrical way people do when they want exhaustion noticed. My mother touched his shoulder twice within the first 5 minutes. "Long week?" she asked softly. He sighed heavily. You would not believe it. Nobody asked about my week. Nobody asked about the interviews I was chasing or the job applications disappearing into digital silence. I set the pie on the counter and helped arrange plates without being asked. Another role I knew by heart. During dinner, the conversation rotated predictably around Dylan's latest challenge. A delayed payment. A difficult client. Stress. So much stress. My father shook his head sympathetically. My mother called him resilient. I watched them build reassurance around him, like people reinforcing a house before a storm. Then Dylan laughed awkwardly and said, "Actually, I might need a little help covering some expenses this month." The room barely paused. Not surprise, not concern, recognition. We had all arrived at the familiar chapter. My father immediately leaned forward. "How much are we talking?" My mother frowned with maternal worry already halfway converted into financial planning. And then, without warning, Dylan looked at me. "Claire, maybe you could help bridge things temporarily too." He said it casually, like asking someone to pass the salt. I felt my fork stop halfway to my plate. Nobody reacted to the request itself because to them it was reasonable. I was employed for years. Responsible. Stable. The family backup generator. My mother gave me an encouraging smile. "Only if you can, sweetheart." Sweetheart. Such a gentle word carrying such a heavy assumption. I thought about my shrinking savings account. About health insurance paperwork spread across my kitchen table. About pretending confidence during phone interviews while wondering how long my emergency fund would last. I opened my mouth, closed it again. The old version of me would have explained everything carefully. She would have softened the truth to protect everyone's comfort. She would have offered something she could not afford and called it family loyalty. But something inside me had started changing. Quietly, without announcement, like ice cracking beneath snow. "I cannot," I said simply. Silence settled over the table. Not dramatic silence. Confused silence. My father blinked. Dylan shifted in his chair. My mother's expression tightened for half a second before smoothing itself back into practiced warmth. "Well," she said lightly, "we will figure something out." We. That word lingered in the air long after dinner ended. We would figure something out for Dylan. We always did. Driving home later with the radio off and city lights sliding across my windshield, I realized something unsettling. Saying no had not made me feel guilty the way it used to. It made me feel awake. 3 days after that dinner, my phone rang at 8:12 in the morning while I was sitting at my kitchen table pretending to revise my resume for the third time that week. My mother's name lit up the screen. Not a text, a call. Calls from Margaret Bennett usually meant urgency wrapped in politeness. I let it ring twice before answering. "Good morning," I said. "Claire, sweetheart." Her voice carried that careful softness she used when asking for something difficult. "Do you have a minute?" I looked around my apartment. Unwashed coffee mug. Laptop open to another application portal asking me to summarize 10 years of professional experience in 500 characters or less. Sunlight coming through blinds I still had not fixed properly. "Sure," I said, though I already felt tired. She exhaled quietly. "Your brother is dealing with a situation." Of course he was. The sentence landed with the familiarity of a weather report. Somewhere in America, someone was ordering lunch. Somewhere in my family, Dylan was dealing with a situation. "He is behind on some payments," she continued. "Nothing catastrophic, just temporary pressure." Temporary. Another family word with flexible definitions. Temporary could mean 6 weeks, 6 months, 2 years, and several uncomfortable holidays. I stayed quiet. My mother filled the silence immediately. "Your father and I are helping where we can." Helping where we can. I knew what came next before she said it. I knew the rhythm of these conversations the way musicians know the final note of a song. "We thought maybe you could co-sign something short-term." There it was, cleanly delivered. Practical, reasonable on the surface. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the water stain near the ceiling that my landlord kept promising to address. Co-sign, not emotional support, not advice. Financial liability wearing family language. "Mom," I said carefully, "I am not in a position to do that." A pause. Small. Noticeable. "What do you mean?" she asked. Not angry. Genuinely confused. That part almost made me laugh. I had mentioned losing my job. I had mentioned interviews, savings, uncertainty. Apparently those details had floated through family conversations like decorative background noise. "I mean, I am unemployed right now." Another pause. Longer this time. "Oh, one syllable." Thin and awkward. Then, astonishingly fast, she pivoted. "Well, yes, of course, but your credit has always been strong." I closed my eyes for a second. Not because I was shocked, because I was suddenly seeing something with uncomfortable clarity. In my family, competence had never earned protection. It earned access. The more reliable I became, the more available I was expected to remain. Good grades became flexibility. Stable income became backup funding. Emotional maturity became permanent accommodation. I thought about all the years I had mistaken usefulness for closeness. My mother kept talking gently about temporary arrangements, manageable risk, helping family during difficult seasons. Her voice sounded warm, loving even. That was the confusing part about unhealthy patterns. They rarely arrived wearing obvious cruelty. Sometimes they sounded exactly like concern. "Mom," I said again, quieter now. "Has anyone asked Dylan to solve this without pulling everyone else into it?" Silence. Real silence this time. Not because she lacked an answer. Because the question itself did not belong inside our family system. Finally, she sighed. "You know, your brother has always needed a little more support." Needed. The word hung there between us. 50 years old and still being described like a struggling teenager. I looked at my calendar taped beside the refrigerator. Interview Tuesday. Rent due soon. Health insurance deadline. My own life waiting patiently in the corner while another emergency tried to move into the center of the room. Something inside me settled into place with almost frightening calm. "I am not co-signing anything," I said. My mother did not argue immediately. She just sounded disappointed in a quiet, familiar way that had shaped me since childhood. I thought family helped each other. After the call ended, I sat motionless at my kitchen table for a long time. Then I opened my banking app, my budgeting spreadsheet, and an old email folder I had not looked at in years. For reasons I could not fully explain yet, I suddenly wanted to know exactly how much helping had actually cost me. The spreadsheet started as an excuse to avoid thinking about my future. That is what I told myself anyway. I opened my laptop intending to reorganize expenses, adjust my budget, maybe convince myself unemployment was still a temporary inconvenience instead of a slow tightening around my life. But then I opened an old folder labeled Family. Inside were years of forgotten transactions, saved receipts, forwarded confirmations, and casual financial favors I had never bothered to measure. I started scrolling. $40 for Dylan's utility bill during his first apartment disaster. $300 for a transmission repair my father promised he would reimburse after things stabilized. They never stabilized. $800 for emergency dental work when Dylan was between insurance plans, jobs, ambitions, or whichever explanation was active that month. I stared at the screen longer than I expected to. The amounts alone were not shocking. It was the pattern. Small enough to feel manageable. Frequent enough to become invisible. I kept going. Plane tickets I purchased when my mother insisted family vacations only worked if everyone attended and Dylan could not afford his share. Last-minute birthday dinners quietly moved to my credit card because my father forgot his wallet again. Graduation gifts. Security deposits. Holiday contributions. Little pieces of generosity scattered across 15 years like breadcrumbs leading toward an uncomfortable truth. By midnight, my kitchen table looked like an audit no one had requested. Legal pad, calculator, coffee reheated twice. Outside my apartment window, the parking lot sat quiet under yellow streetlights. Inside, my entire understanding of family loyalty was beginning to rearrange itself. The final number was not catastrophic. I was not secretly financing organized crime, but it was enough to matter. Enough to cover several months of rent. Enough to cushion my current unemployment panic. Enough to make me ask a question I had avoided for most of my adult life. Had anyone in my family ever truly expected Dylan to stand on his own? My phone buzzed suddenly. Group message. Family chat. My mother's name first. Family meeting Sunday after dinner. Important. No details. No context. My stomach tightened immediately, which annoyed me. I was 34 years old. A family text should not trigger the emotional response of a middle school report card. 2 minutes later, Dylan added a thumbs-up emoji. My father wrote, "We need everyone there." Everyone. That word again. Inclusive language carrying highly selective expectations. I knew before Sunday arrived that this meeting was about me. Not my unemployment. Not my stress. Not the fact that I had quietly spent weeks rebuilding my professional life while pretending confidence. During awkward networking calls and budget grocery runs. No, this would be about my refusal. The family system had registered resistance and scheduled maintenance. Sunday evening arrived cold and gray. I sat in my car outside my parents' house for an extra minute watching warm lights spill through the front windows. The same house. The same curtains my mother insisted on replacing every spring. The same driveway where I learned to ride a bicycle and later learned how quickly praise could shift into obligation. I almost turned the ignition back on. Almost. Instead, I grabbed my coat and walked inside carrying nothing. No dessert, no wine, no offering to soften the room. My mother hugged me too quickly. My father looked unusually formal. Dylan avoided eye contact while pretending intense interest in his phone screen. The dining table had already been cleared, for chairs waiting in a neat square of expectation. That was when I knew this was not a conversation. It was an intervention. The target just happened to be the person who finally said no. My father started the meeting the way managers announce budget cuts. Calm voice, serious expression, hands folded on the table as though order itself could make uncomfortable things easier to swallow. "We need to talk as a family," Ronald said. Across from me, Dylan looked exhausted in a carefully maintained way. My mother sat beside him, protective energy radiating quietly in his direction before anyone had even spoken. I remained standing for a second longer than necessary before taking my seat. For chairs, for people, one familiar script. "Your brother is under a lot of pressure," my mother began gently. There it was. Not hello, not how are you doing. Straight to the emergency. Dylan cleared his throat. I did not want this to become a big thing. That almost made me smile. In my family, Dylan's problems always became a big thing. They expanded to fill rooms, calendars, finances, emotional bandwidth. Gravity worked differently around him. My father leaned forward. "We are not asking you to sacrifice everything. Not everything." Interesting wording. Just enough. Just the acceptable amount of personal cost that families apparently owed one another, provided the debt flowed toward Dylan. The co-signing would only be temporary, he continued. It would help him stabilize. Stabilize. Another polished word. I looked around the table slowly. Same dining room. Same framed family photos on the wall. Smiling vacations. Graduation pictures. Christmas mornings frozen into evidence of closeness. Strange how photographs could document togetherness while completely missing the emotional architecture underneath it. I already said no, I answered quietly. The room tightened. Not dramatically. Subtly. My mother pressed her lips together. My father exhaled through his nose. Dylan stared at the wood grain of the table like a man unfairly cornered by circumstances instead of consequences. "Claire," my mother said softly, "this is bigger than pride." Pride. I felt something cold settle inside me. Because refusing financial risk during unemployment was not pride. It was basic survival. But somewhere along the way, my family had developed a habit of renaming my boundaries until they sounded selfish. Exhaustion became attitude. Limits became stubbornness. Self-protection became disappointment. "This is not about pride," I said. "I cannot carry another situation that does not belong to me." Silence followed. Real silence. Uncomfortable enough that the refrigerator humming in the kitchen suddenly sounded loud. My father broke first. "Your brother has had setbacks." Setbacks. Such an elegant little word for decades of recurring rescue operations. Before I could stop myself, I asked the question that had been building quietly for years. "When was the last time any of you showed up for me the way you show up for him?" Nobody answered immediately. Dylan shifted in his chair. My mother blinked twice, genuinely startled. My father frowned as though I had introduced irrelevant data into an otherwise reasonable discussion. I waited. The room remained painfully still. No examples appeared. No stories. No quick correction. Nothing. And somehow that silence hurt more than any argument could have. Because people can argue facts. Silence only confirms them. My mother finally reached for familiar territory. "You have always been stronger." There it was. The compliment that doubled as abandonment. Stronger. Responsible. Independent. Words that sounded admiring until you realized they translated into one practical family policy. "Claire will manage without us." I looked down at my hands resting on the table. Steady hands. Adult hands. Hands that had built a career, managed bills, navigated layoffs, cleaned up emotional messes quietly enough to keep everyone comfortable. Suddenly, I understood something with startling clarity. They were not holding this meeting because Dylan needed help. That part was permanent background noise. They were holding this meeting because the system had malfunctioned. The reliable child had interrupted the flow, and everyone in the room wanted the machine running again. Nobody raised their voice after that. That was the strange part. I think some small, stubborn part of me had expected a dramatic explosion. A slammed hand on the table. Tears. Accusations sharp enough to make the truth obvious. Instead, the meeting ended the way uncomfortable family moments often do. Quietly. My mother cleared dishes that did not need clearing. My father retreated into practical silence. Dylan muttered something about an early morning call and disappeared toward the front door, carrying his untouched coffee mug like a prop from a familiar performance. And me? I drove home under a dark February sky, feeling oddly calm. Not victorious. Not devastated. Just clear. Clear in a way that frightened me a little. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. No panic. No replaying conversations at 3 in the morning the way I usually did after family conflict. I made coffee, opened my laptop, checked my email. 2 rejection notices. 1 interview request. Normal life continuing with complete indifference to emotional breakthroughs. Somehow that helped. There was comfort in ordinary things demanding attention. Around noon, I opened my phone and stared at my emergency contacts list. My mother's name sat at the top. Margaret Bennett. Home. Cell. Backup. I had not updated that information in years. My thumb hovered over the screen longer than necessary. Not because I was angry, because changing emergency contacts felt strangely symbolic. A quiet administrative acknowledgement that emotional reality and official paperwork were no longer telling the same story. I replaced my mother with my friend Lauren. No ceremony, just one practical decision. Then I updated passwords, reviewed automatic payments, organized financial documents, small tasks, boring tasks, adult tasks. Yet every completed checkbox gave me an unexpected feeling I had trouble naming. Stability, maybe. Ownership. The beginning of understanding that protecting my own life was not an act of betrayal. My phone buzzed twice that afternoon. Family group chat. My mother sharing a recipe video. My father sending a weather warning about possible freezing rain. Ordinary communication pretending Sunday never happened. That had always been our family style. Tension would be wrapped carefully in normalcy until reality suffocated underneath politeness. Usually I played along, sent thumbs up emojis, asked about dinner plans, smoothed edges nobody wanted examined. This time, I muted the conversation. Not dramatically, not permanently, just muted. 8 hours, then 1 week. The silence that followed surprised me. I expected guilt to arrive immediately, loud and persuasive. Instead, I noticed something else. Relief. Tiny at first, barely measurable, like loosening a coat you had worn too tightly for years without realizing it restricted your breathing. Days passed. I focused on interviews, grocery budgets, job applications, and rebuilding routines that belonged to my actual life instead of my family's ongoing emergencies. Somewhere between updating my resume and comparing health insurance options, I realized I had spent decades arranging my emotional availability around crises that were not mine to solve. My calendar had always contained invisible space reserved for Dylan's instability. Last-minute calls, financial conversations, emotional cleanups disguised as family duty. What would my life look like without that constant anticipation? The question felt almost disloyal. It also felt necessary. Late Thursday evening, my phone rang again. Dylan. Rare enough to feel significant. I stared at his name glowing on the screen while my apartment hummed softly around me. Dishwasher running. Laundry half folded on the couch. Ordinary life. Steady life. The phone kept ringing. For the first time in my memory, I did not rush to answer. I simply looked at the screen and realized something quiet but irreversible had already begun changing inside me. I no longer felt responsible for preventing everyone else's discomfort. The missed call from Dylan sat on my screen for almost an hour before a voicemail notification appeared. I listened to it while standing in the cereal aisle of a grocery store comparing store brand prices, like someone suddenly very aware of how expensive adulthood could become when your paycheck disappeared. His voice sounded tense but controlled. Hey Claire, call me back when you get a chance. It is important. No explanation. No details. Just importance. In my family, urgency had always arrived without context because context was apparently optional when Dylan needed something. I put my phone back in my pocket and kept shopping. Eggs, coffee, frozen vegetables on sale. Small, ordinary decisions. That was the surprising thing about distance. Life did not collapse when you stopped responding immediately. It just continued. one careful choice at a time. 2 days later, my mother called during an interview prep session. I let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes after that, my father texted, "Please call your mother." No mention of my interview. No question about how things were going. Just a request connected to someone else's emotional weather system. By evening, 3 new messages waited for me. My mother sounded worried. My father sounded practical. Dylan sounded irritated beneath his attempt at sounding casual. I sat on my couch staring at the notifications while rain tapped softly against my apartment windows. The pattern had become almost mathematical now. Access reduced. Pressure increased. The family system adjusting to resistance. I finally called my mother back. She answered on the first ring. "Claire, thank goodness." Relief flooded her voice so quickly it felt rehearsed. "Everything okay?" I asked automatically. "Habit. Your brother is dealing with a paperwork issue," she said. Not hello. Not how are you. Straight to the situation. Nothing terrible, but he really needs someone dependable to review some documents with him. Dependable. There was my role again. Not daughter. Not person navigating unemployment and rebuilding her own life. Dependable resource. I leaned back against the couch and closed my eyes. "Why me?" I asked quietly. Genuine question. Not confrontational. Just honest curiosity. My mother hesitated. "Because you understand these things." Understand. Another familiar family currency. Competence translated into obligation. I thought about the previous 2 weeks. The muted group chat. The uninterrupted mornings. The strange new calm settling into my apartment like sunlight reaching rooms that had stayed closed too long. Then I thought about something else. Nobody had contacted me to ask how my interview went on Tuesday. Nobody knew I had made it to a final hiring round. Nobody knew I had cried quietly in my kitchen after receiving my first hopeful email in weeks, because I finally felt something close to relief. My family had noticed my reduced availability. They had not noticed my actual life. That realization landed with unexpected force. "Mom," I said slowly, "did anyone call because they wanted to know how I am doing?" Silence. Tiny. Brief. But long enough. "Of course we care how you are doing," she answered quickly. The words arrived fast. Too fast. Like furniture moved hurriedly to cover a stain on the carpet. I waited. No follow-up question came. No curiosity. No, "How are the interviews?" No, "Are you managing?" Just the quiet expectation that we would return to Dylan's paperwork. I looked around my apartment. Laundry basket near the hallway. Resume notes spread across the coffee table. My own life visible everywhere. Real. Demanding. Mine. And suddenly I understood something painful with almost clinical clarity. They did not miss me. Not really. They missed immediate access to the version of me who solved problems without asking what it cost her. "I cannot help with this," I said calmly. My mother exhaled softly, disappointment already forming around my refusal. But for the first time in my life, her disappointment did not feel like proof that I had failed as a daughter. It felt like information. Clear. Useful. Honest. After we hung up, I opened my calendar and confirmed next week's interview schedule. Then I muted my phone, made tea, and noticed the silence inside my apartment no longer felt lonely. It felt earned. The job offer arrived on a Wednesday at 10:43 in the morning while I was sitting in sweatpants at my kitchen table eating toast over a stack of interview notes. For a second, I thought it was another automated follow-up email. Another polite corporate variation of "Thank you for your interest." Instead, I read the first sentence twice because my brain needed time to trust good news. They wanted me. Full-time position. Better benefits than my last job. Reasonable salary. Start date in 3 weeks. I laughed out loud alone in my apartment, which felt slightly ridiculous and completely perfect. The first person I wanted to tell was Lauren. The second thought that crossed my mind surprised me. I did not want to call my family. Not immediately. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to punish anyone. Because I wanted one joyful moment that did not immediately become background noise inside somebody else's crisis. So I protected it. Just for one day. That evening, I bought takeout from the little Italian place near my apartment and celebrated quietly with garlic bread, sparkling water, and the unfamiliar feeling of my own life moving forward without permission from anyone else. The next afternoon, my mother called. I almost ignored it. Almost. "Hi, Mom. Claire, sweetheart." Her voice sounded unusually warm. "Your father and I were thinking maybe everybody could have dinner Sunday. It has been too long. Too long." I looked at my calendar. 3 weeks. That was how long it had been since I stopped functioning like emergency infrastructure. I am busy Sunday, I said. Not a lie. I plan to organize onboarding paperwork and apartment finances. My actual life. Busy doing what? She asked lightly. The question landed strangely. Not curious. Auditing. Before I could edit myself into politeness, I answered honestly. I got a job offer. Silence. Then quick congratulations. Warm enough to sound appropriate. Brief enough to reveal surprise. My father's voice appeared faintly in the background asking what happened. My mother repeated the news. Another pause. Then, almost impressively fast, the conversation pivoted. That is wonderful, she said. Actually, that timing could help everybody breathe a little easier. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not even hidden anymore. Achievement translated instantly into renewed availability. Resource restored. System operational again. Something inside me became very still. No, I said quietly. She hesitated. No what? No, my new job does not change my answer. The silence on the line felt heavier this time. More honest. My mother sighed softly. Claire, I do not understand why everything has become so difficult. I looked around my apartment. Open laptop. Offer letter. Sunlight across the floor. Evidence of a life I had rebuilt without the support I spent years assuming families naturally provided. Suddenly, the answer felt simple enough to say aloud. Because I stopped pretending I can carry everyone. No anger. No dramatic speech. Just truth spoken at normal volume. Sunday came and went without family dinner. Monday morning, I drove across town to sign employment paperwork. On the way, I passed my parents' neighborhood. Same streets. Same grocery store parking lot where my mother once taught me how to compare prices using coupons clipped from newspapers. Same familiar geography. Different person behind the wheel. At a red light, my phone buzzed. Family group chat. My father sharing a weather update. Dylan asking if anyone had a recommendation for financial advice. My mother sending a smiling photo from brunch. Ordinary messages. Ordinary performance. I looked at the screen for a moment, then opened settings and left the conversation. No announcement. No explanation. Just one quiet action completed at a red light. The light turned green. I set the phone down and kept driving. The strange thing about walking away was that it did not feel dramatic at all. No swelling music. No final confrontation. Just relief arriving slowly enough to be believable. For years, I thought leaving would destroy my family. Instead, I discovered something harder and simpler. I had been holding together a version of family that only functioned when I abandoned myself to maintain it. The moment I stopped doing that, the truth did not collapse. It just became